Our next speaker is Alder Rebecca Kemble, representing the District 18 on the Madison Common Council, who this fall took a fact-finding trip to Burlington, Vermont, and has been an outspoken leader on the issue of pushing back against the F-35s. So thank you and welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks. So we know F-35s are bad, and why? How do we know that? A lot of it is from the Air Force's own information. So we learned in August when they released the draft EIS how bad these are for humans to be around. And as we dug in a little bit deeper about these airplanes, we learned, or I learned, and people are now learning, if you read the 2018 Nuclear Posture Review, that these are nuclear weapons delivery systems that are at the forefront of the U.S. military strategy for, I think, I wrote down this word, like, what did they say? Dominant combat air power around the globe. And that's what these planes are. These are not defense weapons. These are nuclear attack weapons. So how do you spin that to people? How do you spin that when your own data and information is saying the noise of this hurts people, and these are nuclear attack weapons? Well, you come up with myths. You come up with myths about the organization that is supposedly housing them. So supposedly the 115th Air National Guard, that's what these planes are for. But guess what? I found out they're not for the 115th Air National Guard. Okay, and so what we heard at the beginning from the Chamber of Commerce and the National Guard was, oh, we protect the people and help in disaster relief, and if there's a bomb at East Town Mall, we'll put the fire out, right? That's what the kind of things they were saying. Oh, these are community members getting their college education, and we need these jobs, and this is a positive force in their community. Well, actually, no, because when you look at that EIS and you see the construction that's happening and where the jobs are going, none of the jobs are going to the 115th Fighter Wing. 29 of the 64 jobs are going to Lockheed Martin contractors to run the simulator, and 35 of the jobs are going to the 378th Fighter Squadron, which is an active duty Air Force unit housed at Truax. Did you know that we have an active duty Air Force base there? Well, this whole project is for them. It's to get regular duty Air Force pilots more flight time on these F-35 jets. So the Air Force's strategy is to sprinkle these jets all around the country so pilots can get flying time. Why can't they get flying time at regular Air Force bases like they can with other equipment? Because these planes break down all the time. They're only flying 1 out of 3 days. They're so poorly constructed and hastily put into use that pilots can only fly them 1 out of every 3 days. So I'm not going to talk about this associate active duty thing. But there's so many myths, and the big myth about jobs and that this is for the Air National Guard, it's not. They're not. Another myth is that, oh, the Air National Guard is a good neighbor. Well, tell that to the people who have been sexually harassed and assaulted and had their cases poorly investigated, and now the National Guard is under federal investigation for that. But also, yes, the noise can be mitigated. We can mitigate the noise. Well, what they say in the EIS is the Air Force has no resources for any kind of mitigation. Air Force itself will not mitigate any noise. As if you could mitigate the outdoors, which you can't. So this fact-finding trip that Chris Taylor and Dylan Brogan and Brandy Grayson and Amelia Royko-Moore and I took in October to Burlington, we went there because the FAA was having a meeting with the people at their airport because they actually have F-35s. And we wanted to see, well, what is this mitigation? And what we learned was it's basically what it did to the nearby neighborhoods in Burlington, because they had experienced prior Part 150 mitigation programs, destroyed neighborhoods, pitted neighbor against neighbor in some really awful ways, and completely destroyed neighborhoods. So when we came back from that, we decided we needed to meet with our airport director and FAA people from the Midwest region, and we had that meeting, a number of us alders and county board supervisors, and what we learned there was basically, if, I'm just going to say the last part and then I'll segue into Jesse, was that the process by which this FAA noise mitigation money for either soundproofing or for providing either buying your house soundproofing or providing an extra boost of money if you can't sell your house at a value that would be equitable for that same kind of house somewhere else. That project takes so long to even begin studying that kids will be like 7 years old enduring the worst impacts of this noise before any little bit of money is even released, because they can't even begin to study this until all of the F-16s are gone. And there's an undetermined period of time where the F-16s and F-35s are going to be flying at the same time. And that's the 7,000 something sorties a year. So that's the worst impacts, no mitigation for that. Then once the F-16s are gone, then they can start a year-long study. And then after they do a year-long study, then it'll take 2 to 3 years to get their application in to the FAA to apply for money to provide homeowners for soundproofing money, et cetera, et cetera. Then, in addition, Wisconsin is this block grant state, so there's an added level where we have to go through the state DOT and the Bureau of Aeronautics to compete for funds for this program. So when you hear about, your home can be mitigated, it's a total myth, and in effect it's a myth. And Jesse's going to talk about these legal documents that the airport has signed with many of the nearby homes that are going to make it even harder.